Windows Server 2022. Welcome back everybody. I'm Prakash Pradhan, your trainer for this entire series. In today's topic, we're going to talk about one of the important roles that you find in a Windows Server 2022 in the form of your Active Directory Right Management Services. Obviously, I do agree that this feature or this role is available in your previous version of Windows Server as well. So now let's start how this Active Directory Right Management Services can be used properly in your organization. Before that, you need to understand what is this ADRMS in Windows Server 2022, how you can go for it, why do you need it, what are the prerequisites. So these are the entire things I'm going to explain in this video in detail. So that's why in order to make it more easy for you, I am going to simply break down this session into two parts. That means the first part we're going to talk about the theoretical portion in order to understand how this ADRMS can be used. In a part 2, we're going to see the practical implementation. So without wasting your precious time, let's go for it to understand what is this ADRMS. Okay, now before that, I'd like to tell you that after completing this session, what are the things that you'll be able to do it? That means you'll be able to understand what is this ADRMS. Okay, now how do you think this ADRMS is going to be helpful to you in order to secure your content in a form of your file security and all? Don't forget, ADRMS is mostly used. It is being developed by the Microsoft and given in a form of your role Windows Server family in order to secure your document from any other illegal or unauthorized person's access. That means, in a simple example, I'd like to tell you that if any file is shared in a Windows Server operating system as a file server, if the file is shared with the attribute to only having the permission to read, trust me guys, anyone can go for the save as. They can go for the printing also. So that's why now the Microsoft has come up with a new layer of this security, new level of this security, where the file, once it is shared over the network and with the attribute to read, that means only read. No one will be able to even go for the save as. So this is a simple example that's been associated with this ADRMS, and we are going to see in detail in this series. Now, of course, there are certain prerequisites. Of course, whenever you go for installing any kind of roles or the features, there are certain prerequisites in order to install those roles and the feature. So we're going to talk about this as well. And then second last, of course, we're going to talk about how to configure it step by step. And at last, after you configure this ADRMS, how you're going to deploy to protect the security in your file, in your properties, intellectual this property in a form of your this document and all, any kind of this confidential this document, so that it does not go outside your organization, or even it goes, they will not be able to have an access on this. That means for bringing any type of changes. Now, first, what you need to understand, this is a kind of your security tool actually that has come up with the Microsoft in a form of your ADRMS. So Microsoft Windows security tool, it is simply, it is used to provide the protection actually to your document, to your data via access policies. That means whenever you share any kind of this resources over the network, they are going to deploy the access policies for that particular document, which I'm going to explain in detail. Don't worry for that. But obviously that document should be associated with the RMS aware. Now, so let's understand the need actually. Why do I need to have this ADRMS? In this simple picture, if you can see, let's say that someone, hey, that share the resources, that send a mail, any kind of information to the recipient. Now, after this recipient receive any kind of information in a form of file, for instance, okay, from the server or from any computer, after that user receive a mail, if he or she think that this information I can take at home, I can edit it, I can go for the further any kind of work. But what if your organization do not give you that authority? That means they do not want you to take this kind of document at home and you do something else. You have a permission just to read that's been shared over the network. So in that case, if you are not deploying via ADRMS, trust me guys, you are not secure. That means if we see the simple scenario of your any client server architecture over here, when from the server any kind of files are saved to this recipient, okay, as a client of your server, once that file is saved to this user, now what that user can do, that user can simply do the save as, okay, and might be making a copy of that in any kind of external storage devices, or might be storing in your mobile devices, or might be forwarding in a form of mail to his or her another one mail address so that they can use it later on. That means any external users can have access to your confidential document. no matter if the information author is someone else in your network. That means normally sharing a file is not secure. You need to think about this ADRMS. If you want your data is to be secure in your network, so that no other outside users are allowed or supposed to use that file. So this session is going to be focused completely on the security of file. Of course, I do understand we do have so many options. That means we go for the NTFS permission, we go for the certificate level, but right now we're going to focus on ADRMS. Trust me guys, this is a very, very important rule. If you implement it properly, your documents, your intellectual properties are so well secured in your network. Okay, now, so how does it work? So let's see now. Of course, Microsoft never suggests that you install all of the roles or the maximum roles in a one server. That means if you see over here in this figure, there's a one Active Directory, then you have another one separate ADRMS server, then you have a database. Of course, we are going to install this ADRMS. That in that case, we also need to have a database in order to maintain all these records. Okay, and normally in a big organization, higher organization, they might be having separately, but in our example we are going to install the domain and ADRMS in the same server, so that it saves your time as well, since we are working in a lab environment. So let's see now how does it work. Once the ADRMS is deployed in your server, okay, and any of the information author wanted to share the resources to any of the client in your network, so what's gonna happen, this user will have a right to share their intellectual property to anyone. That means any kind of document this user wanted to share to the next member of the domain can do it easily. This right is assigned with the ADRMS, but don't forget that user must have the permission to do that. That means the user must be having the mail address. This is the prerequisite, don't forget. Okay, this is a prerequisite. If the user does not have a mail address, even in your client server architecture in a local area network, users will not be able to use the full facility or the full feature of your ADRMS. In fact, it will not allow you to use this one. So that's why, so this is a kind of prerequisite that any user in your domain environment, whoever are going to use it, this your ADRMS feature, okay, in a form of role, I don't understand that, they need to have a mail address. That means this user can share the file to this user, giving a specific permission. That means if the ADRMS is deployed, okay, and this user number 2 wanted to share the file to this next user number, to the recipient, giving a permission, having a read-only attribute. In that case, trust me guys, this recipient will be able to simply read the document, will not be able to do the save as, and I'm going to show you that practically. That means saving a document in a network, normally people might be able to make the duplicate copy of that, but if you have deployed your Active Directory right management services, in that case recipients will not be able to make the duplicate copy. That means your confidential document will not go outside of your organization, so your property remains within your organization. Even the administrator will not have a permission if it is not assigned by the client itself. Okay, now, so before we go for the next session, that means the practical implementation of this one, what you need to understand that whenever you deploy ADRMS, there are two things now. Number one, there will be ADRMS client. So who is this ADRMS client? This client is going to make a request for the license and enforce the assigned rights protection to the document level actually. That means the client is going to make a request to the ADRMS server. So if the client is not able to contact with your ADRMS server, in that case that document will not be assigned having a particular right. In fact, will not be able to share with the feature of ADRMS client. That means in order to use your ADRMS full feature, there will be ADRMS client, and that client will always depend on your ADRMS server. So it administers the account certificate. Of course, whenever we talk about the ADRMS, it works on the certificate basis as well, because it's about the encryption mechanism. So we need to have a CA server. Since we're we're working in a lab environment, I'm going to show you that without a CA also this ADRMS can be done. In order to make this video shorter for this practical session, I would like to show you the process of installing this ADRMS without using the certificate. But if you'd like to go for the most secure way, you can also install the CA in your server, and that's going to add some extra burden to your server. Okay, now so let's talk about the prerequisite. Number one, every user, whoever are going to be ADRMS client, they must have mail address. That's mandatory. Okay, and apart from that, you need to have one service account. during the installation phase of your ADRMS, they are going to ask you one service account, and that service account should be a member of your enterprise admin as well as your schema admin. So the shortest path that I'd like to give is that make that user a member of your domain admins. In that case, the user, whoever is a part of your domain admins, will automatically become a member of other groups. So that's why it's going to save your time. So I hope I made it clear the concept of using this ADRMS in order to secure your document in your client-server architecture. So in our next video, we are going to see the practical implementation of deploying ADRMS in order to secure your document so that unauthorized users will not have any kind of permission, and even they cannot make a duplicate copy of that. That means your confidential document will remain in your organization itself. So if you find this theoretical portion clear, please do like and subscribe, and do view my next video to see the practical implementation of this ADRMS. Thank you.